after Willow was paralyzed. I took care of her meticulously for 2 whole years. Everyone believed that the first thing she would do once she stood up again was to marry me. However, on the night of her successful surgery, when I asked her if she was willing to marry me, she hesitated. She remained silent, but the disdain in her eyes was impossible to hide. So, I smiled calmly and said, "I understand." That very night, without a second thought, I left her behind, taking only an 8-figure bank card with me. Chapter 1. Do you still want to marry me? Willow froze slightly when she heard the question, staring at her legs for a long time without speaking. The noise from outside drifted in through the slightly open door. Someone said, "The doctor said Willow's surgery was a great success. She should be able to recover fully in less than half a month." I really didn't expect her to recover. 2 years ago, she had almost given up on herself. All thanks to George, who never abandoned her. They're definitely going to get married. Right, we should start preparing wedding gifts early. Willow listened to the well-wishing chatter but still said nothing. The air grew thick with an awkward silence. Finally, I stood up, just like always, and gently massaged the back of her calf. "Does this pressure feel okay?" I asked softly, breaking the silence. Her tense body finally relaxed, like I had done for the past 2 years. I asked again with concern, "Does it feel uncomfortable?" She shook her head and answered seriously, "No, it feels good." I stared at my own hands in a daze. At first, I didn't know how to do massages at all, but she was born into privilege, refusing to let any caregivers touch her. Every time one came, she would lose her temper and drive them away. Yet, massages were crucial for her legs. So, I learned. I spent 3 months studying under a massage therapist. I started by soaking my own hands in medicinal water and practicing on myself before carefully attempting to massage her legs. The first time, I only dared to do it while she was asleep. She was a light sleeper. The moment she caught me, she snapped, "Don't touch me. Get your filthy hands off me. Get out." I didn't leave. I simply continued applying pressure on the acupoints I had learned. She couldn't move her legs, so she grabbed a pillow and hurled it at me. When I remained unmoved, she started throwing everything within reach. The last thing she threw was a photo frame, a picture from her college days. In it, she was holding a trophy in one hand, flashing a victory sign with the other, full of youth and radiance. When the warm blood trickled down my forehead, she looked at me and instinctively tried to reach out, but her paralyzed legs rendered her helpless. Finally, she covered her face and broke into sobs. Between choked cries, she whispered, "Just go. Please leave. Don't stay with me. It's useless. I can't feel anything. No matter how much you massage, it won't work." She was drowning in despair back then, but I showed up every day, rain or shine, to help with her rehabilitation, until the day her mother found out she had swallowed sleeping pills and rushed her to the hospital. Mrs. Liu was at a loss. I squatted in front of Willow and said, "Look at me." She obediently looked up. I told her, "Everything will be okay. Trust me." At that moment, I didn't even know where my confidence came from. From that day forward, I moved into the Liu household. Willow's mother cried while thanking me over and over. I could tell she wanted to ask something, so I answered before she could. "As long as Willow doesn't drive me away, I'll stay by her side." But the truth was, even when she did, I still didn't leave. When yet another massage failed to have any effect, she screamed at me, "Get out, all of you. Leave me alone." By then, she was already in a wheelchair. Her entire bedroom was in shambles, destroyed in her fit of rage. The only difference was that, this time, she avoided throwing things at me. After she had vented all her frustration, I leaned in close to her and repeated, "Willow, trust me." I said that phrase over and over again, for 2 whole years. Little by little, her legs began to regain sensation. She could feel pressure. Then, she started managing small movements, until yesterday, when she finally underwent surgery. Even the doctor was amazed. The operation was a complete success. He said, if nothing went wrong, she would be able to stand again. Chapter 2. Willow's mother, upon hearing the news, pressed a bank card into my hand. I stared at it in a daze. These past 2 years, I hadn't done any of this for a bank card. Willow's friends all called me brother-in-law, but only I knew the truth. I had never even confessed my feelings, let alone established any kind of real relationship with her. But once, Willow had told me, "George, when my legs recover, I want to marry you immediately." That was after a first treatment when the doctor had gently expressed his regret. I had pushed her wheelchair home. The moment we entered the house, she broke down completely. The once untouchable, elegant goddess had suddenly fallen from her pedestal. Anyone in her position would have struggled to accept such a fate. I held her tightly. She sank her teeth into my shoulder. She bit down too deep, too hard. Even now, there was still a faint scar. When she saw the blood, she snapped back to reality and panicked. I'm sorry, she kept repeating. And as I massaged her like I always did, she suddenly said those words. No, before that, she had asked me, "George, Do you have a crush on me? I didn't avoid the question. I looked straight at her and said, yes. She stared at me for a long moment before saying she wanted to marry me. But I never did all this for some kind of trade. I didn't want her gratitude or obligation. I just wanted her to feel the same way I did. I hoped that one day, she would truly love me back. Like always, I stood up and poured the medicinal oil into my palms, rubbing it to warm it up before touching her legs. I knew she was watching me. After a long silence, she spoke softly. George, you don't have to do this anymore. My hands froze for a second, but I still finished the massage. I tilted my head up and asked, one more time, unwilling to give up, Willow, do you still want to marry me? She hesitated, parted her lips slightly, but in the end, said nothing. I could only laugh at myself for being so foolishly hopeful. But after spending every day by her side for so many years, after secretly loving her for so long, how could I not be foolishly hopeful? I stood up and washed the medicinal oil off my hands. From the doorway, her voice came through. George, you're like a brother to me. A sharp, throbbing pain pulsed through my head. I rubbed my temples hard. Don't say things like that. Words like that were too cruel to me. When I stepped out of the bathroom, the living room was still filled with laughter and chatter. I glanced at Willow, then reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box with some difficulty. Without hesitation, I tossed it lightly into the trash bin beside me. I knew the ring inside wasn't worth much. It didn't match her status, but I had still held onto it, naively looking forward to the day I could propose to her. Even though it hurt, I had managed to convince myself that the timing just wasn't right. Yet now, throwing it away, I felt an unexpected sense of relief, and strangely, I regretted not getting rid of it sooner. Willow looked over. For a fleeting moment, something flickered in her gaze. She wanted to say something, but I waved it off. Then, I pushed her wheelchair out the door. Chapter 3. The moment we stepped out, Willow's friends immediately swarmed around us. One of them teased, "What little secrets are the lovebirds whispering about? Even we aren't allowed to hear." "Don't worry, we won't tease you today. We'll save that for your wedding." Another chimed in, "Let's hang out a little longer before we head home." Willow's friends, like her, were well-mannered and considerate. Knowing she had just undergone surgery, they had all brought only juice and light food. One of them asked her, "Willow, when you recover, let's go skiing again. How about Titleys this time?" Willow nodded lightly but didn't say anything. Her friend then turned to me and grinned. "Brother-in-law, you have to come too and take care of Willow." Willow looked up at me, throwing the question my way. After being rejected twice in a row, even I had some pride left. "You guys go ahead," I said. But then, Willow suddenly spoke. "He can come too. After all, I see him as my brother." The moment those words fell, the entire room went dead silent. Her friend playfully poked her cheek and laughed. "Willow, what kind of joke is that?" More people jumped in to smooth things over, laughing. Her legs just recovered, her brains still catching up. "Don't mind her, brother-in-law." The comment was quickly brushed past in all the laughter and chatter, but Willow said nothing the entire time. I thought back to a conversation with an old friend. Years ago. "George, are you sure about this?" he had asked me. "A rich girl like her. She's from a completely different world. If she were healthy, do you think she would ever choose to marry you?" Back then, I couldn't bring myself to say the answer out loud, and now, I still couldn't, until Willow answered for me. "No." The gathering was warm, the atmosphere light. Soft music played in the background as everyone reminisced about old times. I lowered my head and looked up Titleys, a lesser-known but renowned ski resort, and that was when I truly understood what it meant to be from a different world. I stood up. Willow's gaze immediately landed on me. I walked back into the bedroom and dialed a number, the number of the woman who had once tearfully thanked me 2 years ago. Rubbing my hands together, I asked, "Auntie, about that bank card." She had been waiting for me to bring it up. Before I could even finish my sentence, she eagerly cut in, 7 zeros. "Take it. It's the least I can do to thank you for taking care of Willow these past 2 years." I let out a low hum in response. There wasn't much to pack. I tossed the few pieces of clothing I owned into the trash. Then, I took the bank card and walked out the door. As I passed through the living room, a wealthy heir called out to me, "George, where are you heading this late at night?" I didn't want Willow to feel awkward, so I smiled and said, "Nothing much, just hungry. Going out for a bowl of noodles." They joked about ordering takeout instead, but I waved it off. "Your takeout orders cost hundreds. Not really worth it." Willow must have realized something. She lifted her eyes, staring at me without blinking. I waved to the people inside. "I'm off." At 1 a.m., I left the place I had stayed in for the past 2 years, with nothing but a bank card in my pocket. And honestly, it wasn't a loss. Chapter 4. I found myself a place to stay. No longer had to watch over Willow every second. No longer had to brace myself for her sudden breakdowns in the middle of the night. My body, finally free from the constant strain, felt strangely light, but I wasn't used to it. I couldn't sleep. Instead, I sat on the balcony with a beer in hand, gazing at the sparse stars in the sky. The world was utterly silent, and for the first time in a long while, I could hear my own thoughts. I thought I'd feel sad. I thought I'd be heartbroken, but I wasn't. I just cracked open another beer, absent-mindedly touched the scar on my shoulder, and wondered when it would finally fade. That night, all I really noticed was how cool the wind felt and how bright the stars were. Willow called in the early hours of the morning. I answered, but she said nothing, so I was the one who spoke first. "What's up?" She hesitated, as if testing the waters, before finally saying, "George, I feel like eating your homemade meat buns for breakfast." After she became paralyzed, she refused to eat. No matter which high-end chef cooked for her, she would keep her mouth tightly shut. I never indulged her tantrums. If she didn't want to eat, then she wouldn't eat at all. Instead, I sat right in front of her and devoured Cantonese dim sum with exaggerated relish. On the third day, she finally caved and asked for a bite of shrimp shumai. Later, she stopped liking restaurant food because I had learned to make it myself. But just yesterday, her silence was still fresh in my mind. So I answered calmly, "Willow, I'm gone." The line went quiet for a long moment. I didn't know what else to say, so I simply hung up. The money in my bank account was staggering. I stared at the number of zeros in disbelief, counted them over and over, yet still couldn't wrap my head around it. Only when I carefully put the card away did I finally understand what my friend had meant when he said, "She's not from our world." He was right. My parents were just ordinary people. When they heard I was taking care of my paralyzed girlfriend, they even came to visit. Back then, Mrs. Liu had treated them with overwhelming warmth, but they were visibly uncomfortable. After we got home, my dad said, "If it's too much, just let it go. We're from different worlds." It wasn't until now, 2 years later, that I finally understood what Mrs. Liu had been doing. She had served an extravagant feast that even Willow found excessive. For my parents, two simple people from a small town, it had been overwhelming. Mrs. Liu's generosity hadn't just been about gratitude. It had been a message, a reminder, loud and clear, we are not the same. With that bank card, I went ahead and bought a new apartment. Not a single zero had been touched. The next few weeks were spent busying myself with renovations and errands. And then, half a month later, I ran into Willow again, at a cafe near my new place. Her friends were teasing her. "Willow, if George really leaves, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Another friend chimed in. "He's been doting on you for years. Just go and act a little spoiled. Say sorry or something." Someone else added, "I'm still calling him my brother-in-law." Chapter 5. Willow hadn't been outside for 2 years. Her skin was so pale that under the sunlight, her face was almost blindingly white. Hearing her friends half-joking, half-serious remarks, she gave a half-hearted smile and said dismissively, "If George shows up in front of me right now, then we'll see." Unfortunately for her, I was sitting just one table behind them. I heard every word. I shifted slightly to the side, trying to avoid the situation. But the next second, my friend Makoto walked into the cafe, calling out to me in his usual cheerful voice, "George." He jogged over and grinned. "They have your favorite croissants today." The moment Makoto's voice rang out, Willow's table fell silent. I could feel their eyes trailing after him, following his movements, until they saw me. Makoto placed the food in front of me and frowned at my sudden change in expression. "What's wrong?" Sensing my discomfort, he tensed up instinctively, but then, I realized there was no need to let Willow and her friends affect my mood, so I smiled and replied, "Nothing. Sit down. This isn't the dulce de leche one, is it?" Just like that, the conversation moved on, but we were seated too close. I couldn't avoid overhearing the murmurs from Willow's table. "Willow, this is fate. Go talk to him. If you don't clear things up with him, we can't be friends anymore." I recognized every voice. Back when Willow was bedridden, they had all come to visit her, one by one. Among them was a man who had feelings for her. When he came to see her, Willow had grabbed the flowers he brought and thrown them in his face. He stood there, humiliated and frozen. I patted his shoulder, picked up the flowers, and placed them back in the vase. Willow's eyes were cold as she sneered at him. "And you still like me after this?" The man clenched his jaw, his face stiff with embarrassment. I quietly closed the door behind me as I left. When he walked out, he let out a dry chuckle and said, "I'm over her. She's not worth it." Then, he left, carrying the disheveled bouquet with him. But halfway down the hall, he turned back. He watched me silently as I swept the scattered petals off the floor and frowned. "But you're a good guy," he said. "Thanks." Then, after a pause, he added, "Honestly, you should stop liking Willow too. She doesn't deserve you." After that, Makoto and I became friends. We'd go out for drinks and barbecue sometimes. Willow had always been surrounded by decent people. As I reminisced, Makoto kept chatting beside me. It wasn't until Willow's voice rang out that I snapped back to reality. "George, I instinctively looked up. Her lips were pressed tightly together. She had something to say but suddenly seemed unable to voice it. From behind her, one of her friends urged, "Willow, just apologize. If you act a little spoiled, I bet he'll forgive you right away." Willow's lips tightened even more, but I didn't need her apology. Love was supposed to be mutual. Besides, I had already taken the money. There were still so many zeros in my account that I hadn't even counted them all yet. People shouldn't try to have it both ways. Willow stood there, frozen. I looked at her conflicted expression and spoke first. "I don't need it. I don't need an apology." She let out a quiet sigh of relief, but just as she turned away, she hesitated and looked back at me. "When are you coming back?" she asked. Maybe I hadn't made myself clear last time, so this time, I was explicit. "I'm not going back." Willow seemed lost in thought. Her eyes lowered, and after a pause, she responded with a quiet, "Okay." She returned to her table, where her friends were still waiting eagerly. "So, did he forgive you? When's the wedding? When can I get my wedding candy?" Willow's voice was cold and distant. "There's no wedding." The table fell silent. Then, as if to make her stance even clearer, she raised her voice slightly. She scoffed. "Why would you assume I'd marry him? Just because I owe him. I have to repay it with my life. I already told you, I see him as a brother. For the third time, some things, if you push too far, lose their meaning." I stood up and addressed her friends directly. "You guys misunderstood. I was just paid to take care of Willow." Willow lifted her head, staring at me, her gaze locked onto mine. I met her eyes without hesitation. Looking into those furious eyes, I spoke again, calmly. "And you don't have to see me as a brother either. A stranger will do." Chapter 6. Willow was in love, loudly, publicly. She announced it on social media, attending events with her new boyfriend on her arm. It was impossible not to know. I ran into them at a gathering. With so many mutual friends, no one had expected us to cross paths. When Willow walked in, her arm hooked around her boyfriend's. A friend of mine patted my back, a silent gesture of acknowledgement. After all, they had all seen how I had taken care of her during those 2 years. I gave him a reassuring smile and turned to take a good look at Willow's boyfriend. Nothing special. 2 eyes, 1 mouth. Willow saw me too. She casually picked a table in the far corner and sat down. When the waiter arrived, she ordered a fruit platter. As soon as it arrived, she nudged her boyfriend with a small gesture. The man, eager to please, immediately peeled an orange for her. He fed her pieces of fruit, but she didn't even bother lowering her head, her gaze blankly staring ahead as she absent-mindedly chewed the grapes he handed her. Even an outsider could see how detached she was. If this was what she called being in love, it looked pretty dull. I wasn't affected, but my friend was. Fuming with indignation, he clung to me and insisted on introducing me to someone new. I patiently explained that he was drunk. As I helped him out the door, Willow's boyfriend and I locked eyes. "I know you," he said. I paused. With a smirk, he added, "Willow really owes you a lot for all the care you gave her." I nodded and continued supporting my friend, ready to leave, but he stepped in front of me, blocking my way. With a self-satisfied grin, he said, "Just don't try to guilt-trip anyone. That was your duty." If Willow had been my girlfriend back then, I would have done the same thing. He spoke with such grand conviction, so full of self-righteousness. But the sleepless nights, the shattered glass thrown in anger, the endless patience needed to handle her emotions, those weren't things you could understand just by imagining them. I chuckled. Words were cheap, but who knew? Maybe one day, if Willow's legs failed her again, he'd get his chance to prove himself. Willow's face had already darkened. A friend quickly stepped in to smooth over the tension. I played along, cracking a joke. "If it ever comes to that, just hire a caregiver instead." But even that made Willow angry. Bang. A glass slammed hard against the table. I turned to look at her, pouting. She snapped impatiently. "What's the point of bringing up the past? It's boring." But if it was truly in the past, why couldn't it be mentioned? It wasn't about moving on, it was about shame. The next day, when my friend sobered up and heard about the encounter, he cursed. "That bastard. He really rubbed it in your face." Huh. I let him rant. Then, as he fumed, I calmly counted the zeros in my bank account. Huh. Still not mad. It was then I truly realized the power of money. But my friend remained convinced I was just putting on a front. Once again, he tried setting me up. "Willow's already dating. Want me to find you a girlfriend? With your financial status, it'd be easy." These days, relationships moved fast. Some people barely needed a day before jumping into bed together. But I had no interest in using money to attract a woman. That was fine for casual fun. But for something real, something that required trust and genuine care, money wasn't the answer. So I politely declined. My friend, of course, took it the wrong way. "See, you're still hung up on her." He ranted about Willow some more, and I simply laughed along, throwing in a few insults for good measure. Life went on. I immersed myself in fishing, befriended other fishing enthusiasts, and even bought a yacht. Every day, I spent my time out on the water, completely at peace. Along the way, a few women showed interest in me, but when they realized I wasn't the type to shower them with gifts or take them on extravagant dates, they quickly lost patience. Soon enough, I'd see them in relationships with someone new. My friend started joking that I was like Lucky Chuck, the guy women dated before finding the one. I laughed too. The truth was, I wasn't in a rush. Once, I had devoted myself entirely to Willow. Now, I wanted to focus on myself. I wanted to fully let go of the past before opening up to someone new. And when I did, I knew one thing for sure. The person I'd choose would be just like me. Genuine. Real. I still believed in meeting sincerity with sincerity. Chapter 7. Willow broke up. A week later, she was in another relationship. Once again, she announced it publicly. By now, even our mutual friends had fully accepted that Willow and I were impossible. I had been away from Sea City for half a year, yet news about Willow still found its way to me. Then, she broke up again. Maybe she had finally figured something out. This time, she stopped. Her friends, however, weren't ready to let it go. They joked, hinting that she was single again and urging me to go after her. As the new year approached, I had no choice but to return home. What I didn't expect was that the moment I stepped off the plane, they were all there waiting for me. Willow's friends surrounded me, grinning. George, what? Did you go fishing in a coal mine? How'd you get so tan? Despite everything, they had never distanced themselves from me just because Willow and I didn't end up together. One of them had even messaged me the day I cut ties with Willow, saying, George, even without Willow, I still want to be your friend. But what I really didn't expect was that Willow was there too. She stood at a distance, staring off into space, lost in thought. But eventually, she took a step forward and said to me, long time no see. Half a year ago, she had barely concealed her resentment toward me, and now, she was greeting me like an old friend. I responded politely, long time no see. She hesitated before speaking again. My legs. Before she could finish, my phone rang. I gave her an apologetic smile and answered the call. A bright, cheerful voice came through the line. George, where are you? Her energy was contagious. I smiled. I'll send you my location. Don't rush. Take your time. When I hung up, my friends had already made plans for dinner. After they finished talking, I asked, mind if I bring someone along? They were instantly curious. Who are you bringing? Just then, a girl in a pink down jacket came running up to me, full of energy. I had told her to slow down, but she still dashed straight to my side. Without hesitation, she grabbed my hand, clinging to me as she said sweetly, I missed you so much. Her movements were too fast. No one had time to react. I tried to take her suitcase from her, but she refused to let go. Smiling, I introduced her. This is Sophia, my girlfriend. Fate is funny sometimes. Love shows up when you least expect it. Sophia truly loved fishing. What started as a shared hobby turned into a deep, effortless connection. I had prepared myself for the possibility that she might leave after learning about my values. But she didn't. She was lively, independent, and we saw the world the same way. Before I even realized it, she had become a constant presence in my life. My friends exploded in laughter. George, you've been hiding her from us all this time. Huh. If you hadn't come back, we'd never have met her. Another one added. No excuses, you're paying for dinner. It wasn't that I had been hiding her. I just hadn't expected her to come with me. I had missed my original flight due to traffic. When I rescheduled, she had sent me a pouty message. Why aren't you here yet? I hate you. Only then did I realize she had bought the seat next to mine. But fate played a trick on us. We missed each other anyway. She had landed earlier and had been waiting for me at the airport. As my friends continued teasing me, I raised my hand in surrender. All right, dinner's on me. Sophia mimicked my gesture, grinning as she echoed, dinner's on me. Her outgoing personality quickly won everyone over. When we arrived at the restaurant, the seats were perfectly arranged, just enough for everyone. Not a single chair extra. That's when someone noticed. Willow wasn't there. They called her, and her voice on the other end was unclear. My legs suddenly started hurting. I went to the hospital. No one could sit still after hearing that. That sudden, are you okay? What did the doctor say? She replied, it's nothing. The doctor just told me to rest. You guys eat. Don't wait for me. But given her past condition, no one felt comfortable just staying put. Seeing their hesitation, I gave them an out. Go check on Willow. We can have dinner anytime. I turned to Sophia and said, we're tired anyway. We'll just head home and rest. Sophia, unfazed by the unexpected change of plans, cheerfully waved them off. As we walked back home, she pointed at every little thing along the way, asking endless questions. She had something to say about everything, flowers, street signs, even the stray dogs on the sidewalk. By the time we reached my place, neither of us expected to see Willow, standing at my door. Sophia's grip on my arm faltered for a moment. Then, she stepped forward and spoke first. Willow, sister, right. Her voice was sweet, warm, and respectful. She even called her sister. I instinctively glanced at Sophia. Willow gave her a small smile, but didn't answer her. Instead, she looked at me. George, Chapter 8. Her eyes were on me. Long time no see, she repeated. Sophia, despite being ignored, remained unbothered. She simply held my hand and stood quietly beside me. Willow seemed to have more to say, but I took a step forward, cutting her off as I introduced Sophia. This is my girlfriend, Sophia. Willow's lips twitched into a smile before she gave a barely audible response. Then she added, my legs might have a problem. Sophia responded immediately, her voice filled with concern. If your legs aren't doing well, you should go to the hospital right away. Do you need me to call an ambulance for you? She even took out her phone, explaining seriously. After all, my boyfriend isn't a doctor. Willow ignored her and called my name again. George. Sophia, however, wasn't about to let it slide. She turned to me and asked directly, George, why isn't she answering me? How was I supposed to know? But before I could reply, Willow spoke again. George. Sophia refused to let up. She leaned in close, her face right in front of mine. George, why? I sighed and gently pushed her forehead away. I don't know. She pouted and leaned in again. I could never win against her, so I instinctively reached for my keys and started unlocking the door. Then, at the last second, I realized Willow was still standing there. Sophia, ever straightforward, reminded me bluntly. George, you forgot Willow is still here. Willow's expression flickered, momentarily faltering. Seeing my gaze return to her, she finally spoke. Can we talk? Sophia shook my hand, looking up at me. George, what do you need to talk to her about? And in that moment, I suddenly realized she had been acting like a classic pretentious coquette all along. I caught on a beat late but still played along. I don't have anything to talk about with her. With that, I closed the door. Inside, Sophia immediately clung to my arm. I'm jealous, she pouted. I ruffled her hair. Jealous of what? She knew everything about my past with Willow. When we started dating, I had told her everything, left nothing out. What was there to be insecure about? She pursed her lips. I hate that you're such a blockhead. I didn't know how to respond. But before I could say anything, she brightened up again. Then again, being a blockhead is a good thing, she muttered under her breath. It means you don't even notice when other women are trying to flirt with you. That night, Willow called. George, she said. Did you know your girlfriend had a 4-year-long first love? She really was in the hospital. Her condition was unclear, but all those exes who had once sworn they'd never abandon her, they showed up at the hospital, one after another. My friends even started placing bets on how long they'd last. The answer? 2 days. Most didn't even last a few hours. My friends told me she deserved it. They warned me not to soften. Of course, I wouldn't. The moment I took the bank card, I had no intention of looking back. Then one night, Mrs. Liu messaged me. George, can you meet Willow alone? Sophia was right beside me when the message came. I refused outright. Sorry, my girlfriend might not be okay with that. She called me, her voice desperate. I'm begging you. I'll give you as much money as you want. Willow can't just stop eating. Please, just let her eat. Why is this happening to Willow? Her words were incoherent, her voice breaking apart. From what little I gathered, Willow's condition wasn't minor. Mrs. Liu sobbed. Why does this have to happen to us? Please, she needs to eat. Sophia, always understanding, squeezed my hand and said softly, it's okay if you see her. Don't worry about me. But what was the point? There was no relationship left between us, and if I met her once, they'd just find reasons to make me meet her again and again. I held firm. I'm sorry. I don't owe you anything. I have my own life to live. And so does Willow. The next day, I heard from a friend. Willow's legs had worsened. The doctor had said it was a low probability event. Yet somehow, it had happened to her. Her muscles had atrophied. The likelihood of her returning to a wheelchair was high. Back then, even when I was by her side, she could barely endure it. Now, after having tasted the freedom of walking again, being told she might be paralyzed once more, I couldn't imagine how she was handling it. I didn't respond to the message. Then, Willow called me directly. I thought she was going to act pitiful, but instead, she scoffed. George, do you really think you and your little girlfriend will last? I didn't answer. She continued. Wanna bet? Bet on your girlfriend's loyalty. Loyalty wasn't something you could gamble on, and I knew, the moment you start testing trust, it's already broken. I let out a cold laugh. I'm not playing this childish game with you. But she didn't care about my rejection. Her final words were, just wait and see. Beautiful women never stay faithful. I brushed it off and moved on. The new year was busy, filled with plans. Sophia wanted to explore the city with me, but I barely had time. At first, she was a little sulky about it. Then she realized I was genuinely busy and started exploring on her own. She made friends effortlessly, so I never worried. Sure enough, in just 2 days, she was heading out full of excitement. Some mornings, she left before I even woke up. Sometimes, I caught her before she left. Other times, I woke up to find only a handwritten note in the living room. The notes piled up, and then, slowly, I felt it. A creeping unease. What was she doing? Who was she meeting? I remembered how she had once teased me when I was away for a week, constantly asking what I was up to. Now, for the first time, I understood how she had felt. I wanted to talk to her about it, but before I could find the time, Willow messaged me from a new number. A photo. Sophia, sitting in a cafe, laughing with another man. For a split second, unease crashed over me. That morning, she had told me she was meeting a friend. Willow sent another message. See, this is your girlfriend. I didn't know what her goal was. She kept sending more photos. Guess what? Think she'll come home tonight. I blocked her. Chapter 9. I sat at home, hesitating before finally texting Sophia. What are you up to? Her reply came quickly. Having dinner with friends. I swallowed down my unease and typed. What time will you be home? She responded. Around 10. So I waited until 10. Time crawled by. I sat on the couch, restless and anxious, watching the clock tick away. 11 came. Sophia still hadn't come back. Not even a single message. Then Willow called me from another new number. She let out a cold chuckle. So, am I right or am I right? Beautiful women never stay faithful. I frowned. What was she trying to achieve? I sighed. Even if Sophia did betray me, so what? If she cheated, I'd break up with her. Then I'd move on and find someone else. It was that simple. I had never been the type to lose the courage to try again just because I got hurt. Back then, when that guy told me Willow didn't deserve me, I had doubted him. She had seemed kind, smart, someone with countless good qualities. How could she not deserve me? But now, looking back on those 2 years objectively, she had a terrible temper. She had given up on herself. She had access to the best medical care but refused to put in the effort to recover. And now, she wanted to drag me down with her. She really didn't deserve me. I waited until 1 a.m. Sophia still wasn't home. But why was I waiting? Why was I listening to Willow instead of asking Sophia directly? Why was I letting someone else interfere in my relationship? I grabbed my coat and headed out the door. And just as I stepped downstairs, I ran into Sophia. She was just getting out of a car. In the driver's seat was a man. The same man from the photo. The moment she saw me, she stiffened, looking a little flustered. George, she called my name, quickly explaining. I got home a little late. The man in the car noticed me too. He gave me a casual wave. The car started to pull away. I stepped forward and knocked on the window. The man hesitated before rolling it down. What's up? He asked. I looked at him and asked directly. Are you Sophia's first love? His expression shifted, suddenly uneasy. You're Sophia's boyfriend, right? Don't misunderstand. I cut him off. Yes or no? Sophia, realizing I was angry, hurried over. The traffic was bad, she said, her voice anxious. That's why I got back late. 10 o'clock, she had said. It was now past 1 a.m. How bad could traffic possibly be? I repeated my question. Yes or no? Yes. The answer was yes. We had been together for so long, and she had never told me about her first love. Some people wouldn't care, but I did. Right then and there, I broke up with her. The men jumped out of the car, rushing after me, trying to explain. Men, I swear, I wasn't trying to get in between you two. I was just in town for work, and Sophia was traveling too, so we just grabbed a meal. We didn't do anything. You can check the security footage if you want. The more he spoke, the more frustrated I became. It wasn't about what they did or didn't do. It was about trust. Sophia cut him off. Stop talking, she said sharply. The men hesitated, then sighed, looking guilty. Sophia turned back to me, quickening her pace to catch up. She followed me all the way home and blocked the door, refusing to let me in. We need to talk, she said. I looked down at her. No, we don't. From the very beginning, I had been clear about what I wanted in a relationship: mutual honesty, complete transparency. I had told her everything about me. She had hidden him. She had hidden their dinner. I wasn't oblivious. I had simply chosen to act oblivious for her sake. I had chosen to be a man who wasn't interested in casual banter with other women, who didn't entertain meaningless conversations. I had chosen to keep my distance from everyone else. I had chosen to be reserved for her. I had chosen to be hers. And in the end, she had kept secrets from me. I exhaled, my voice calm. It's over. Chapter 10. This relationship had started fast, and it had ended just as quickly. When my friends invited me out and told me to bring Sophia along, I responded openly. We broke up. They sighed in sympathy, then immediately started trying to set me up with someone else. I still refused. I was still waiting for someone sincere, and if she never appeared, I would rather be alone. Mrs. Lu continued calling me, pleading with me to visit Willow. I still refused. Instead, I sent over all the meal plans, prescriptions, and medical guidance she needed. Then, I booked a flight back to my hometown. This time, I didn't miss my flight. When I took my seat, I noticed Sophia sitting right beside me. She grinned, her eyes curving into crescents. George. This time, we didn't miss each other, but she was still too young. She didn't even understand what I was thinking. She only wanted to get back together. She pouted and clung to my arm, her voice soft as she pleaded. I was wrong. Let's get back together. I promise I'll be good. Forgive me. George, can't we just be happy together? She repeated the same words over and over, but none of them touched the real issue. Mrs. Lu had begged me over and over to see Willow, and I had rejected her outright. So why should I have to meet Sophia's first love? I replied simply, no, we're not getting back together. Let's end it here. When we got off the plane, she stood there, looking pitifully at me, but when I turned away to call for a taxi, I glanced back. She was already gone. She had been passionate and sincere, but she was still too playful, too young. That was okay, though, at the very least, I had gotten to experience her warmth, and when the time came, I would still take my next relationship seriously.